My name is Courtney. I'm 38 years old. 6 years with the same man teaches you the rhythm of his breathing, the way his silence feels when it's peaceful versus when it's hiding something. I used to believe that kind of familiarity meant safety. I was wrong. 3 weeks ago, my boyfriend, Daniel Harper, told me his ex-girlfriend had moved back to town. He mentioned it the way someone mentions rain in the forecast. Oh, by the way, Chloe's back. We're grabbing coffee Saturday, just catching up. I looked up from my plate. I remember the exact sound my fork made against the ceramic. A small, sharp click. Do you want me to come? I asked. Calm, casual. He laughed. Why would you come? It's just coffee. Don't be insecure, Courtney. I wasn't insecure. I was a woman who believed it was normal to meet the people orbiting her partner's life, especially the ones who used to share his bed. But I swallowed it. Okay. I told myself I trusted him. Told myself maturity meant not flinching at ghosts. Saturday came. He dressed nicer than usual. Nothing dramatic, just intentional. The navy shirt I bought him last Christmas. The cologne he saved for special occasions. He was gone for 4 hours. When he walked back in, there was a brightness in his face I hadn't seen in months. How was it? I asked. Good. Really good. He smiled, loosening his watch. We talked about everything. Her divorce has been rough. I told her she can call me if she needs someone. That's nice of you. I thought so too. The calls started that week. At first, every other day. Then every day. Then multiple times a day. He'd laugh at things she said. That soft, private laugh. The one that used to belong to me. If I walked into the room while he was on the phone, his voice would lower. I'll call you back, he'd murmur. One night I asked gently, why do you always leave the room when she calls? He exhaled sharply. Why are you being weird about this? I'm not being weird, I'm just noticing. You're being paranoid. The word landed like a bruise. I'm not paranoid, I said quietly. You're acting different. Because I have a friend who's going through something. You have friends. My friends don't call me 5 times a day. Maybe your friends aren't falling apart. There it was, the implication that I lacked compassion. So I let it go. I told myself I was overthinking, that insecurity grows in silence and I refused to water it. 2 weeks later, he told me she was coming to our house for dinner. He told me that morning, Chloe's coming over tonight. I'm making that pasta you like. Be nice. I'm always nice. You know what I mean, he said, not looking at me. Don't make it awkward. I wasn't planning to. But the moment she walked in, something shifted. Chloe was beautiful in that effortless way. Hair pulled back loosely, confidence like perfume. She hugged Daniel too long, just long enough for the silence to thicken. Then she turned to me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Courtney, I've heard so much about you. I wondered what version of me she'd been told about. We sat down to dinner. I took my usual seat at the head of the table. Daniel sat across from me. Chloe positioned herself beside him. They talked the entire meal about college, mutual friends, trips, concerts, stories that ended in, you had to be there. I tried to join once. Oh, I've been to that restaurant you mentioned. Daniel glanced at me. Really? Anyway, Chloe, remember that night after the concert when I stopped trying after that? I watched them instead. The way their shoulders angled toward each other. The way he remembered how she took her wine without asking. The way she touched his arm when she laughed. After dinner, we moved to the living room. I sat in my recliner, the one I'd bought last year, my spot, my quiet corner. Chloe looked at it. Mind if I sit there? My back's been killing me. That looks comfortable. I hesitated. Daniel was already nodding. Yeah, let her sit there. You can take the couch. I moved. I told myself it was just a chair. I watched her settle into it like she'd reclaimed something that was hers. Daniel brought her coffee. Didn't ask how she took it. He remembered. They talked for 2 more hours about her divorce, about how her ex-husband didn't understand her, about how she'd made mistakes but was learning. Daniel listened like she was fragile glass. I sat on my own couch in my own home and realized I felt like a guest. Around 11, she left. Daniel closed the door and turned to me, smiling. That was nice. She really needed that. It looked like you needed it too. His smile vanished. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said. I'm going to bed. Don't be like this. You're being childish. Childish. I went to bed anyway. He stayed up another hour. His phone kept buzzing. I lay in the dark and stared at the ceiling, counting the vibrations like they were cracks forming in the foundation of my life. That week, she came over 3 more times, always at his invitation, always sitting in my chair, always laughing like she'd never left. On Wednesday, I came home early. They were in the kitchen. Daniel was teaching her how to make sourdough bread, something I'd asked him to show me last year, and he'd said was too complicated. They stood close, flour dusting their hands. She reached for his wrist to guide him. Oh, he said when he saw me. "You're home early." "Meeting got canceled," I replied. "We're making bread," Chloe said brightly. "Want some when it's done?" "Sure." I walked into the living room. My chair was empty. I didn't take it. I sat on the couch and listened to them laugh for an hour. That night in bed, I tried again. "Do you think maybe she's coming over a little too much?" He stiffened. "Too much? Every other day feels like a lot." "You're being controlling." "I'm asking for boundaries." "We have boundaries." "You text her while we're in bed." "So? You text people?" "Not like that." He turned away from me. "I'm not doing this. You're being ridiculous." I lay there long after his breathing evened out. Something was changing. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just small displacements. My chair, my evenings, my place beside him. And I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't an accident. It was a slow replacement. I just didn't know yet how far it would go. Friday night, she came again. This time, I made sure I was sitting in my recliner before she arrived. It sounds petty when I say it out loud. Territorial. Insecure. But when the doorbell rang and Daniel opened the door with that familiar softness in his voice, the one he used to reserve for me, I felt something in me brace. Chloe stepped inside like she'd memorized the layout. She hugged him. Too long. Her hand lingered at the back of his neck. His fingers pressed into her waist just a second too long to be polite. Then her eyes moved to me. "Oh," she smiled lightly. "You're in the good chair tonight." "Yes," I said evenly. "I am." There was a flicker there, a calculation. She took the couch instead. Daniel sat beside her. Not close enough to be obvious. Close enough to be deliberate. Their knees angled toward each other. Their shoulders leaned inward. I might as well have been a painting on the wall. They started reminiscing again. A beach trip from college. A bonfire. A storm that forced them into a tiny motel room. "You remember how terrified I was of thunder?" Chloe laughed. Daniel smiled at her in a way I hadn't seen in months. "You weren't terrified," he said softly. "You just liked having an excuse to hold on to me." My stomach dropped. They both laughed. I didn't. An hour in, I stopped pretending to scroll on my phone. I just watched. The way she looked at him when he wasn't looking at her. The way he leaned forward when she spoke. The way my presence seemed to dissolve between them. And then it happened. She leaned closer to him. Not touching. Not quite. Her voice dropped. Soft, intimate, meant for him. But loud enough for me. "Don't forget who really matters in this family." Family. The word felt invasive in my own house. Daniel didn't correct her. He didn't laugh it off. He smiled. And then, impossibly, he glanced at me. Not guilty. Not confused. Just aware. I smiled back. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. But in that exact moment, something inside me sealed shut. I wasn't competing. I wasn't begging. I wasn't explaining myself again. I stood up calmly. "I'm going to make a few calls," I said. "You two keep catching up." Neither of them asked who I was calling. That was the part that stung most. I walked into the bedroom and closed the door. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the closet, at the safe tucked into the corner behind winter coats. Then I picked up my phone. First call, my attorney. The same woman who helped me manage my father's estate 2 years ago. Voicemail. "I need a consultation," I said, "as soon as possible." Second call, my bank. "What's required to separate a joint savings account?" They explained the process. "I'll be there Monday morning." Third call, a locksmith. "How much to rekey an entire house?" They quoted me. "I'll call you back," I said. Then I opened the safe. Marriage certificate, car titles, insurance policies, mortgage documents, bank statements. I placed everything into a folder. Not frantically, not angrily, methodically. When I walked back into the living room 30 minutes later, they were still laughing, still leaning toward each other, still acting like I was incidental. Daniel glanced at me briefly. "You good?" "Perfect," I replied. He nodded and turned back to her. That was the moment I understood something important. He wasn't choosing her accidentally. He was choosing her comfortably. Saturday morning, I woke up early. He was still asleep. I went to the bank when it opened. I closed our joint savings account, transferred exactly half into a new individual account, requested a cashier's check for the remaining half, and placed it in an envelope with his name on it. Fair. Clean. No drama. When I got home, Daniel was in the kitchen making coffee. "Where'd you go?" "The bank." "On a Saturday?" "They have weekend hours now." He barely looked up from his phone. A notification flashed across the screen. Chloe. He didn't hide it. That almost hurt more. That afternoon, I went to see my older sister, Victoria. She opened the door and took one look at my face. "What happened?" I told her everything. She didn't interrupt, didn't rush to comfort, just listened. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "So," she said carefully, "what are you going to do?" "I think I'm leaving." Victoria nodded slowly. "When?" Soon, I just need to time it right. You can stay here. Spare room's yours. Are you sure? Courtney, she said gently, I've been waiting for you to say you were done. That stayed with me. Waiting. Had it really been that obvious? Sunday, Chloe came over again. I was in the garage organizing tools, placing some into boxes. Daniel stepped outside. What are you doing? Cleaning, donating things I don't use. He studied the boxes. You've been cleaning a lot lately. I guess I like order. He held my gaze a second too long. Then he went back inside. 10 minutes later, I heard Chloe's car. He greeted her with that same warm tone. I stayed in the garage for 3 hours. When I finally walked in, they were on the couch. Close. Her legs tucked beneath her, his arm resting along the back of the couch behind her shoulders. Not touching, but close enough to imagine it. I walked past them without speaking. Went into the bedroom, pulled out a suitcase. I packed enough for a week, maybe 2. Not everything, just essentials. I placed the suitcase in my car under a blanket. Monday morning, I took the day off work. He didn't know. He left at 9. At 9:15, his iPad lit up on the kitchen counter. I wasn't snooping. It was just there. Miss you already. From Chloe. He replied within seconds. Miss you too. My hands didn't shake. I took a screenshot, sent it to myself, deleted the thread from the recent view so he wouldn't know I'd seen it. Then I called the locksmith. They can come this afternoon. Perfect, I said. Then my attorney called back. Tell me everything. I did. When I finished, she asked, do you want to try counseling first? No, I said. I want out. I just want to do it right. Document everything. Keep records. If both names are on the mortgage, it complicates things. But we can manage. I don't want anything from him, I said quietly. I just want my peace. I'll draft the papers. By 2 o'clock, the locksmith was changing every lock in the house. Front door, back door, garage. The sound of drilling metal felt like punctuation. Final. He wouldn't expect it. He didn't expect anything, because he thought I would always stay. By 4 o'clock, the house no longer felt like ours. It felt like a place I was finishing. The locksmith handed me 3 new sets of keys. I kept one. I gave one to Victoria. I placed the third in my glove compartment. Insurance. Then I started moving. Not everything. Not dramatically. Just what was mine. Clothes I bought before Daniel. My grandmother's jewelry box. My laptop. Books with my name written inside the cover. The framed photo of my parents from their 30th anniversary. The one he never liked because it didn't match the decor. 3 trips to Victoria's house. She didn't say much while we unloaded the car. She just carried boxes and set them down carefully, like they contained something fragile. You're really doing this, she said finally. Yes. Are you scared? I thought about it. No, I'm tired. That was closer to the truth. Tired of explaining. Tired of minimizing. Tired of shrinking myself to avoid being called insecure. I drove back to the house one last time before he got home. I stood in the kitchen for a moment. 6 years of memories lived in that room. Holidays, burned dinners, late-night arguments, apologies. I slipped my ring off slowly, set it on the counter, next to the envelope with his half of the savings account. Then I wrote a note. We'll talk this weekend. Please don't contact me until then. The locks have been changed. Your new key is on the counter. I placed my old key beside the ring. Then I walked out. I didn't cry. Not yet. My phone started ringing at 6:32 p.m. Daniel. I let it ring. It rang again and again. 9 missed calls in 30 minutes. Voicemails followed. Courtney, what is this? Why can't I get in the house? This isn't funny. Why are the locks changed? What the hell is going on? By the 4th voicemail, panic had sharpened into anger. You can't just lock me out of my own house. By the 7th, if this is about Chloe, you're overreacting. By the 9th, fine, don't answer, but we're talking about this. I turned off my phone. Victoria ordered takeout. We ate in silence. That night, I slept without listening for a buzzing phone. For the first time in weeks, my chest didn't feel tight. Wednesday morning, the doorbell rang. Victoria looked through the peephole inside. He's here. Of course he was. I stayed in the bedroom while she opened the door. Courtney's here, isn't she? Daniel's voice was strained, exhausted. She doesn't want to talk, Victoria replied calmly. I don't care what she wants. She locked me out of my house. It's her house, too. Not without telling me. There was a pause. Maybe you should have thought about that before disrespecting her in her own home. What are you talking about? He snapped. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Silence. Then softer. Nothing happened. Victoria didn't miss a beat. It doesn't matter if nothing happened. You treated her like she was invisible. You let your ex sit in her chair. You let her come over every other day. And you didn't say a word when she whispered that she was what mattered in your family. More silence. I didn't mean it like that, he muttered. How did you mean it? I don't know. It was a joke. It didn't sound like one. His voice cracked slightly. Can I please talk to her? No, she'll talk to you this weekend. When? She'll text you. There was a long exhale. I love her. Victoria's voice softened, but only slightly. Then you should have protected her. The door closed. She came into the bedroom. You okay? I nodded. But my hands were trembling. Not because I doubted my decision. Because a small, stubborn part of me still loved him. And loving someone who's careless with you is its own kind of grief. Friday afternoon, my attorney called. The paperwork is ready. I picked it up an hour later. Separation agreement. Clean split. He keeps the house. We'll sell and divide the equity. He keeps his retirement. I keep mine. No alimony, no drawn-out war. Just done. That night, I turned my phone back on. I had 23 unread messages from him. I scrolled past them. Instead, I typed one sentence. Meet me at the coffee shop on Main Street tomorrow at 2 p.m. We need to talk. He replied immediately. Finally, I'll be there. Please, Courtney, let's fix this. I didn't respond. Saturday, 1:45 p.m. I sat in the back corner of the coffee shop, the same place he'd met Chloe 3 weeks ago. I chose it deliberately. When he walked in at exactly 2, he looked thinner, like sleep had abandoned him. He sat across from me, eyes searching mine. I'm so glad you agreed to talk. I said we'd talk. Why didn't you answer my calls? Because I needed silence to think. And what did you decide? I slid the folder across the table. He looked down, then back at me, then down again. What is this? Separation papers. His face drained of color. You're not serious. I am. Over coffee, over dinner, over nothing? It wasn't nothing. It was just Chloe needing support. It was you choosing her comfort over my dignity. That's not fair. What's not fair, I said quietly, is inviting your ex into our home every other day. What's not fair is giving her my seat. What's not fair is laughing with her while I sit there invisible. What's not fair is letting her say she matters most and saying nothing. I didn't think... That's the problem. He leaned forward. Nothing physical happened. It didn't have to. He ran a hand through his hair. We can fix this. Counseling, boundaries. I'll cut her off. You already showed me where I stand. That's not true. For 3 weeks, I said steadily, you chose her every day. I'm choosing myself once. His eyes filled. I love you. I swallowed. I know. Then don't do this. I loved you too much to keep begging for space in my own life. Silence stretched between us. People around us laughed. Milk steamed. Cups clinked. Ordinary sounds. Endings rarely announce themselves loudly. I stood up and placed a pen beside the papers. Sign them or don't. The lawyer will contact you. Courtney, please. There's nothing left to explain. I walked out without looking back. For the first week after the coffee shop, my phone stayed silent. Not because Daniel didn't try, but because I didn't answer. He sent long messages at first. I'm sorry. I didn't realize how it looked. Chloe doesn't mean anything. Please don't do this. Then shorter ones. Can we talk? I miss you, please. I read them all. I responded to none. 2 weeks later, his tone changed. I cut her off. I told her not to contact me anymore. I stared at that one longer than the others. Not because it moved me, because of how easy it sounded. Like she'd been a subscription he could simply cancel. He hadn't cut her off when I asked for boundaries. He cut her off when I left. That difference mattered. The legal process moved quietly. He signed after a week. There was a small pushback from his attorney about equity percentages. Nothing dramatic. My lawyer handled it. Clean split, just like I wanted. The house went on the market. I drove past it once. The for sale sign in the yard felt surreal. 6 years reduced to square footage and listing photos. Victoria asked me one night, do you miss him? I thought about it honestly. I miss who I thought he was. That felt truer. And then, almost casually, the final twist surfaced. It came through mutual friends. Chloe had stopped coming around. Stopped calling. Stopped posting vague, dramatic quotes online. Apparently, her divorce hadn't been as final as she'd made it sound. Apparently, she'd been reconciling with her ex-husband the entire time. Daniel had been comfort, an ego boost, a familiar safety net while she figured out whether her marriage could still be salvaged. 2 weeks after I moved out, she disappeared again. This time, back to the man she had supposedly left. I didn't feel triumphant when I heard that. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. Daniel lost me for someone who wasn't even staying. He texted me once more. Late. 2:17 a.m. I know this doesn't change anything. But I'm sorry. You deserve better. I see that now. I stared at the message for a long time. And for the first time, I believed him. He did see it now. But clarity after consequences isn't growth. It's hindsight. I didn't reply. Because he was right. It didn't change anything. It's been 2 months. I'm still at Victoria's, but I signed a lease last week. A small apartment across town. Nothing fancy. But it's mine. The first thing I bought for it wasn't a couch. It wasn't a bed. It was a chair, a deep, oversized armchair in soft gray fabric. It sits by the window. No one asks to sit in it. No one expects me to move. Sometimes I sit there in silence and replay the moment everything shifted. Not the bread in the kitchen, not the text on the iPad, not even the separation papers. It was that whisper. Don't forget who really matters in this family. At the time, I thought it was about her trying to claim him. But it wasn't. It was about him letting her. That whisper didn't destroy my relationship. It revealed it. It showed me I had been accepting crumbs and calling it devotion. That I had been shrinking myself to avoid being labeled jealous. That I had mistaken tolerance for strength. People ask if I'm angry. I was at first. Angry at Chloe, angry at Daniel, angry at myself for waiting. But anger burns fast. What's left now is something quieter. Relief. Relief that I didn't beg. Relief that I didn't compete. Relief that I chose myself when he wouldn't. The last time I saw the house, the locks were different again. New owners. New lives. No ghosts. Daniel thought he could have both. The stability of me and the thrill of her attention. He thought I would always stay. Always understand. Always adjust. He was wrong. And the night he came home and his key didn't work, the night he saw my ring on the counter, the night he realized I wasn't coming back, that was the moment he finally understood what really mattered. Not because I told him, but because I was gone.